Welcome to OAA Now, your home for Oakland Activities Association news and information. Here's your host, Sammy Taramina.
Welcome to OAA Now. I'm Sammy Taramina, blog of the Dragon's Den, blog of Inside the OAA, and one of the hosts of Between Taminas and Oriented Neighborhood Television. I'd like to welcome our friends watching Oxford Community Television and also those watching on YouTube. We got a lot of news to cover this week. Of course, what's going on around the league. Of course, we'll talk about what happened to Clarkson Athletics this past weekend. Of course, volleyball suffering a 5-game loss to Fenton, and of course, the football part of things for Clarkson really did not go so well, as they were just completely destroyed by Romeo. We'll go over that one, along with Southfield Arts and Tech and Utica Eisenhower recaps, and also Groves' win over Groves Point South, and we'll also preview their state semifinal matchup with Detroit Martin Luther King coming up Saturday at 1 o'clock at Dearborn. And also we got some boys basketball news as well from Troy Athens. Of course, one of the big stories surrounding that program, of course, is the arrival of the return of Taylor Mascal, who currently came back to Troy Athens from Detroit Edison. We'll go over that and what impact that will bring to the Red Hawks team. So, lot to cover here coming up here on the podcast today. Here, let's go over our first one here. Let's recap what happened let's look at what happened in football. Of course, some of the biggest ones that I didn't expect to see coming was of course, Utica Eisenhower and Southfield Arts and Tech was 42-7 in favor of Utica Eisenhower. That was something that I kind of expected it would come. Just surprised with how this game was. Really wasn't even close. I mean, when you look at what happened in that game, I mean, Utica Eisenhower, I didn't think this was as much as it was with Southfield Arts and Tech, as much as it was Utica Eisenhower. Of course, Utica Eisenhower is one of the top teams in Macomb County. And you look at what happened, and basically says that, it just tells you how good Macomb County's been all season. I mean, you look at what Macomb County's done to Oakland County this year, and it's been a total annihilation. When you look at some of the playoff eliminations, when you look at, of course, Romeo eliminating Orion, you look at Utica Eisenhower eliminating Southfield, you look at just a lot of, and early in the year when you look at how Macomb County has done against Oakland County, Macomb County has kind of taken back what was theirs, and they've proven Macomb County football right now is better right now than Oakland County. Like, the MAC right now is a better league than the OAA, and if the OAA wants to get better, they got to start beating the MAC, and that really hasn't been, and it's shown its relevance right now when you look at the playoffs so far. Even the games week 1 when the Red just got completely embarrassed. When you look at what happened with Southfield against Detroit Martin Luther King, Orion against Chippewa Valley, I mean, and those type of things, what happened there, and it kind of showed in this game with Southfield Arts and Tech taking on Utica Eisenhower. Of course, it reminded me a lot of what happened to the Warriors week 1 at Wayne State when they were just completely embarrassed by Chippewa, when they were embarrassed by Detroit Martin Luther King 39-0. And, it kind of had that same feeling for the Warriors in that one when they ended up losing to Utica Eisenhower. So I was surprised the score was 42-7. I mean, I thought the Warriors offensively would have had a much better offensive showing than they did. I think the injuries kind of came back to haunt them, whereas in the first 2 playoff games against Warren Mott and West Bloomfield, it really didn't bother them. But in this game against Utica Eisenhower, if you are not healthy, Utica Eisenhower is going to come and kill you because they have a good defense. Their defense is one of the best in the state. And then, of course, they have a good quarterback in Max Whitmire. They had a big game from their running back. They had at least 4 of the 6 touchdowns that they scored in that game was either by Whitmire or the running back in that game at Swinehart. And It kind of was a good atmosphere at Swinehart Field, and it was a rough environment for Southfield Arts and Tech. So in that one, I was just surprised at the score. It's hard to describe what happened in that game. But Utica Eisenhower, they're going to move on to take on the Troy Cass Tech on Saturday at Troy Athens. So that'll be a very interesting matchup there. Of course, the Troy Cass Tech had to survive Saline. But back to Southfield Arts and Tech with how their season came. The Warriors had a really strong season. There's no doubt about it in their first year. Had to overcome adversity. Of course, the passing Kara Allen was huge for this team to bring them together. And then, of course, they had some great wins to beat West Bloomfield, which was huge for them. Of course, that win over Clarkston was just absolutely huge for them as well. They got in at 6-3, but they ended up then going out to beating Warren Mott on the road, and then of course going into being at home against West Bloomfield, eliminating them, and then of course playing at Swinehart Field also was a very difficult place to play. So everything was stacked against the Warriors, and it kind of showed its rough head for them in that game over there on Friday night. So it was not good if you were a Warriors fan, but you got a lot to look forward to in the future next year. This team will be loaded again next year. They'll be back. I expect Southfield Arts and Tech to be back next year. Now, the other team that lost in the league was Clarkston. When you look at what happened here, it's been about a few days for me to think about this, and I'm still thinking about this. You're playing Romeo, a rival to you, at home, regional final, chance to go make some noise in the state playoffs, and you go out and lay an egg. And Clarkson laid a big egg. They lost 41-7 to Romeo. Probably the first mistake I thought personally occurred in this game, and it wasn't the play of them. It was their uniform combination. And that really bothered me because normally I see if a team's playing Clarkson at home, you would expect them to wear blue jersey or either yellow pants or blue pants. They're at home. They come out in white pants. Who made that decision? Who really made that decision? It just didn't make any sense for them to wear white pants at home. It made no sense. And but that's beside the point. I was just very disturbed about that uniform combination set. Just very disturbed by that. But anyway, to the game. I just did not expect Clarkson to give up 41 points to Romeo. They gave up 3 long touchdowns of 50 yards or more, 87-yarder, a 76-yarder, and a 50-yarder, all runs against Romeo. When you look at Romeo, this is a team that had some offensive issues. Romeo's been known for their defense, and they used it to perfection against Clarkston. I thought Romeo's defense would have been an issue for Clarkston. Wouldn't have been an issue for Clarkston because Clarkston always found a way to overcome what they were, the superior dominant team, but it didn't happen. And Romeo, of course, this is a team. Let's not forget, they're defending Division I state champs. There's no doubt about that. But for them to do this to Clarkston, when you look at Romeo's playoff run so far, Waterford Mott in the district final held Waterford Mott to 7 points. Shut Keith Fields down to 5 yards rushing. And then, of course, you look at the Orion game. It was a deja vu game for the Dragons against Chippewa Valley. Couldn't get in the end zone. Romeo used the game plan very similar to what Chippewa Valley did against Orion in their game week 1. So when you look at what Romeo's done, they have used their defense to just keep teams out of sync, keep them out of the end zone, and they say, okay, you can get to about the 35-yard line, and then we're not gonna bend when you get to 35 or lower. So that's what Romeo did against Clarkson. They shut down Michael Flugel, shut down JT King. It didn't help that I believe their offensive lineman, his name is Noah Nicken. He got injured. He was carted off in an ambulance. It did not help that Clarkston lost him, and that kind of hurt them in that game. Really hurt them. But what was shocking was Clarkson's defense just did not look good at all. They did not. And you look at, wasn't Romeo coming off the gate, taking a 21-0 lead to start off, and, just shell-shocking the folks down there at Clarkston? I mean, was it that? I mean, Clarkson had their chances. They had their chances, but, they had a chance to make it 20-14, but instead, they give up a turnover. They have a 4th down stop. And the next play, Romeo goes, first play from scrimmage, scores a long touchdown, 28-7. 28-7. So that's what happened here to Clarkston. I was very surprised at how that Romeo played this type of game, that they controlled the line of scrimmage. They took advantages of everything they were given, and they just made Clarkston. They were the more physical team up front. They just dominated Clarkston. And that's hard to say when you look at the guys who Clarkston has, especially when you have a guy like a Nick Stallworth, who's a very good physical defender, very good physical linebacker, and yet Romeo does a good job on him. Take him out of the play. I saw the highlights of the game from state champs, and I couldn't believe what happened. I still couldn't believe that Romeo just literally dominated Clarkston. And this wasn't even close. It really wasn't even close what happened to Clarkston. I mean, this is the first loss for the Wolves at home since 2012, when they were just when they lost a heartbreaker to Rockford. This is Clarkson's first home loss in 4 years at home. Incredible home run Clarkson's had. But to get embarrassed like this, to get humiliated like this, it's shocking. It's shocking, to say the least, because, this is a team that prides itself on defense, a team that relies a lot. I mean, they got a good on-off offense, to win games. Of course, you have a good running back in Michael Flugel that could carry the load. JT King, of course, he had a very good option quarterback. You know what I mean? Very good quarterback. But Romeo ended up finding a way using that bend, don't break defense, and they used it to perfection. And that's what happened here. And you got to look at it from this perspective. I mean, was Clarkson due? People ask me, were they due? I mean, there's going to be some people that are going to say, are they due? And they're going to say, well, some are going to say, yeah. But I didn't think they give up 41 and only score 7 at home. That's more of the shock here, is that this game, if Clarkson would have lost close and people would have said, well, okay, this and that, but this was a butt whooping. This was a butt whooping. I mean, this wasn't even close. This was a 34-point loss. That's what the shocking part is. Now next year Clarkson does return the bulk of their line, but they still got to find some receivers, and they got Flugel back, but they're gonna have to address the quarterback situation. I don't know how they're gonna address that. course, we'll see how they address that. But if I'm Clarkson next year, you know what I mean? Got to use this game for motivation. Got to. Really well, you got to use this game for motivation next year. If I'm Kurt Richardson and his team, got to. And then last but not least, we had Groves against Grosse Pointe South. This was not even close. Groves ended up winning 44-10 over Grosse Pointe South. Used a strong rushing attack led by Ernest Allen. Of course, he played very well in that game. Of course, Beaver Keeley had a nice game as well. Grosse Pointe South, I didn't think they were that good, to be honest with you. I really didn't think they were that good. And you look at what happened here in that game. Just kind of, Grosse is dominant. It showed that they were dominant. They controlled tempo, controlled the game. Grosse got to use their depth. They got to play their second string players, which I think is always good for a team, especially when you got to get ready for a state semifinal game, like what they're going to have to deal with on Saturday. But when you look at what Groves did, this is history for Groves. Of course, this is for the first time for Groves that they are this far in their school history. They just won their first regional title. And then you look at, and then they just, in the district final, they just beat Birmingham Brother Rice for the first time since 1963. This has been an incredible playoff run for Groves, that they've been doing. And yet, during the interview process, I was doubting them because of their schedule. And they had a very tough schedule, And, we had to play against the likes of Southfield, Arts and Tech, Oak Park, Harrison, Adams. And then, of course, having to go to Saline, play them on the road. That's difficult, But then, of course, it gets you playoff ready, Groves knocked off Berkeley, and then they beat Birmingham Brother Rice, and then now they beat Grosse Pointe South. They destroyed Grosse Pointe South, but they're going to need a lot more. They're going to need a lot more on Saturday at Dearborn when they play Detroit Martin Luther King. We'll preview that game in the third segment. But anyway, with Groves, I think when you look at this team, they're balanced. They've been playing much better. But when you look at it here, they're going to need a lot more than they have showed when they have to play a team like Detroit Martin Luther King. I thought Grosse Pointe South and Groves would be a team that could be a serious contending team, but at the end of the day, I just think that Groves really just, they're just not. I mean, like I think with Grosse Pointe South, I didn't think they were that. I didn't think they were that competitive. I just didn't think that they would be as inferior, to Groves. Now South, they got some good players, but I didn't think that they would be as, they wouldn't have tested Groves. Now this week's going to be a much different story, because when they have to play Detroit Martin Luther King, of course, Detroit Martin Luther King's defending Division II state champions, and they have a wide receiver named Amory Thomas. So we'll preview that game. But Groves right now, riding high right now. I'm still trying to get my head over what happened with Clarkston against Romeo. I still cannot believe how that game ended up going. That one, I kind of expected Utica Eisenhower, Southfield Arts and Tech game. I didn't expect Southfield Arts and Tech to get blown out like they did. But end of the day, you just got to give credit where credit's due. I mean, Clarkston's a team that is Clarkston. I just didn't think that they would. I didn't think they'd get killed like this. Southfield Arts and Tech, Utica Eisenhower is on a different planet right now with the way they're playing. And I think it wouldn't surprise me if Utica Eisenhower beats Detroit Cass Tech this weekend. It really wouldn't surprise me, because I think there's some kinks in the technician's armor. There is some kinks. So we will see what happens going forward there. But, of course, Groves is the only OAA team left in the football playoffs right now. They're going to be in the state semifinals this Saturday. So we'll preview that in the third segment. when it goes forward. So, we come back, we're going to talk about boys basketball news a little bit. Of course, the big one out of Troy Athens with Taylor Massacal. And, of course, what happened in girls volleyball to Troy Athens and especially to Clarkson here on OAA Now.
Prescription drug abuse is a national epidemic. The new in way to obtain drugs is through parents' or grandparents' medicine chests. Removing prescriptions from your cabinet is the best way to keep drugs out of the hands of our young people. We've got to work together to protect our teens, our seniors, and our environment. Clean out your medicine cabinet today. Please participate in Operation Medicine Cabinet and drop off your unwanted or expired prescriptions at one of our law enforcement drop-off sites in Oakland County. We can't ignore this situation anymore.
Welcome back to OAA Now. I'm Sammy Tarini here. Of course, big news of the day is coming at Troy Athens. Of course, according to a tweet from Prep to Michigan, it did report, and we can confirm it, that Taylor Massacal he re-enrolled at Troy Athens, and he is expected to likely play in the second semester of the season. So when you look at this one here, of course, we don't know if it is confirmed, though, that if he can play the second semester, but everything is speculating that it's going to look like he's going to be able to play in the second semester of the season. So when you look at this move, Massacal ended up transferring after the season out of Troy Athens to go to Detroit Edison, where he was expected to be one of the top players in the entire state of Michigan, and it would help his college stock. That's why he made that move, to leave Troy Athens to go to Detroit Edison so he can get some exposure. So now, Detroit Edison getting some players that did transfer in to their to play for them. It was gonna make Massacal he was not going to play a lot over there at Detroit Edison. So he decided, to go back to Troy Athens, to lead, to be one of the top players of the Red Hawks. And then it makes the question, why would he leave? Why would he left? For him to test the college, to test the landscape. Instead, now you're going to have to sit out a semester. Most likely, so I'm not sure if he's going to sit out the whole year, but it's a possibility right there. And then, of course, how are you going to respond to this with your teammates, your former teammates, now your current teammates now, because you left them and now you're back with them? When you look at Troy Athens, talent-wise, this is a better team with them. But, they didn't have the summer ball with them. They didn't have, and I saw them playing summer ball, and they were not very good. They were not very good. Now, they didn't have their true star crew of players with them, but like I said, it's just when you leave to go play at Detroit Edison, when you leave to go play at another school, and then you decide to come back, there's going to be some hurt feelings. I think there is some over there. When you look at what happened with what Dave Scott has done with that team, of course, he's had to do with ever since he had that senior class 2 years ago, last year was a rough year for Troy Athens in the Red Division. And, when you're in a division with North Farmington, who went to the state finals last year, Clarkson, we know about them. Adams was very good. And Southfield High was very good. When you're playing those four teams, that's very difficult. And, and to just get destroyed like that each match, it was not pretty. It was not pretty. When you look at what Troy Athens has coming this year, of course, McCaskill will be joining with Jacob Bradley. Of course, Jacob Bradley is a very underrated player. I think nobody talks a lot about Mr. Bradley. I think he's an underrated talent, especially at the other guard spot. I think that, I still believe right now with Massacal not playing, this is Bradley's team. And you look at, I think this is a perfect opportunity for Bradley to show what he is made of. And if he can do that, once Masco comes back, they have a 1-2 threat in the guard situation that could compete in the white division. The white this year is going to be a very difficult league. When you look at the teams in there, you got Troy, arch rival, in there. You got Hazel Park, who's going to probably be the favorite in my opinion. Then you have Oak Park, who's got a new staff. And then you have Avondale, of course, Tim Morton's a heck of a coach. And then you have Pontiac. So it's not going to be easy for the Red Hawks to navigate this division. I think right now, Troy, if I had to put Troy Athens right now, where they're at right now, I would have to say they're the fourth best team in this division. Behind Hazel Park, behind Oak Park, and behind Troy. Because I think when I look at the early season projections right now, I think those four teams are better right now than Troy Athens. And that is even with Massacal. When Massacal comes back, they'll probably be in the second half of the division schedule. And then they're in that district where they do host, where that will include a district Warren de Sal. Of course, they just lost their one of their best bigs in I think his name is Josh Ballantyte, I believe. Ballantyte, I believe that's the name. Josh Ballantyte. He ended up transferring to Macomb, Dakota. Royal Oak, Warren Mott, Sterling Heights, and Warren Kuzno just lost their best player, and A.J. Crawford. Crawford, of course, transferred out from Warren Kuzno to go play at New Haven. New Haven's one of those top teams in Class B. I think it's going to be very, very dangerous. I think they could threaten seriously Detroit Country Day. I think they could beat them. I really believe New Haven can make some noise. But when you look at what Massacal, I don't think will play in their first game, December the 6th, when Troy Athens hosts Dwayne Graves. This is Clawson Trojans. Of course, Dwayne Graves, he formerly coached at Bluefield Hills. And, when you look at Clawson, they're an up-and-coming team to keep an eye on going forward. When you look at Dwayne Graves' team out of Clawson. But when you look at Troy Athens and Massacal, this is a team that if Massacal's going to have to work really hard to get back the players' trust. And, it's not that easy, especially that of Dave Scott's trust. Because when you look at the situation now, in that state with Troy Athens, is you look at the Red Hawks. This was a team that was it was a rough year last year for them. There was no doubt about that for them. And it's going to take a while for McCaskill to get the respect back of the players. And especially that of Dave Scott. Because if McCaskill has forced to sit out the year, I don't know what's going to happen to Troy Athens. If McCaskill can play in the second half of the semester, it could help them, but they're going to have to work from scratch. Basically, they're going to have to work from scratch, basically, to redevelop that chemistry and to basically learn how to play together. But who knows? If the backup point guard to McCaskill, is playing really well right now, it's going to be hard to take it's going to be really hard to take him out. So there's that other issue right there. So there's going to be a lot of issues that's going to have to be settled and straightened up between Taylor McCaskill and Troy Athens. So there's going to be a lot that's going to have to be settled here between those two. So that's a very interesting situation, how that's going to fold up. Let's go to volleyball. Of course, we have the two last teams of girls volleyball were eliminated in the regional final round. Of course, Troy Athens was in the regional semifinal. Took on Sterling Heights Stevenson at Troy High School. And Troy Athens was no match for the Titans. You know, it was a 3-0 matchup final. You know, when I look at that matchup, I just, you know, besides the fact that Stevenson's has a huge fashion disaster based on what they wore in that game against Troy Athens. Troy Athens just did not play really well in that game against Stevenson. Now, Stevenson's a very good team. There's no doubt about that. But, you know, they're talented. They play, they're a good team. There's no doubt about that. But I was just disappointed how Troy Athens just really looked outmatched against the Titans. Now, Sterling Heights Stevenson ended up going to the regional final where they were eliminated by Birmingham Marion. And where they were just, I couldn't believe how they were just eliminated by Birmingham Marion. Now Birmingham Marion's moved on to the state quarterfinals at Troy Athens. They're going to be playing Novi. You know, I'd be shocked if Birmingham Marion upsets Novi because I don't think anybody's touching Novi. I really don't. Not with how many Division I players they have. And Novi's a very good team. There's no doubt about it. What Jen Cottrell's done with that team. Build that program up. Now, it helps when you have a girl named Erin O'Leary on your team. I mean, it really does. I mean, but then you have a Miss Volleyball candidate who backed up, who was the runner-up. And it kind of really helps that Novi has got at least 4 Division I players on their team. But anyway, you know, just surprised how, just very surprised how Troy Athens ended up losing that one to Sterling Heights Stevenson. You know, and when I saw the pictures on them in my prep zone, you know, it reminded me. I mean, like I just can't get the look of Sterling Heights Stevenson's volleyball fashion disaster. That is awful. That is just awful. But anyway, let's look at Clarkston now. Of course, Clarkston, a lot of people thought would be a serious challenger to Novi if they got the state final. Of course, we know they had the epic district final with Orion in that 5-game thriller. They ended up having another one in the regional final. We'll go over that in a minute. But in the semifinals, they played Macomb, Dakota. And I was shocked how they swept the Cougars in 3 games. I mean, now, yeah, I understand Macomb, Dakota had and their coach, I mean, like, and their team had, were dealing with the tragedy. You know, they were dealing with that, occurred on Friday, that following week. But, you know, you're playing Clarkston, and at Anchor Bay, you know, you kind of have a little bit of a home field advantage here because you're playing in Macomb County. You're playing in Anchor Bay, in New Baltimore. You played there frequently because you're in the same division as Anchor Bay, but they were no match for Clarkston, and it was shocking how Coach Tracy Ferguson team just struggled in that match against Clarkston. The way they struggled. I mean, you know, especially when you look at the addition of actually Judge, I believe, coming over from Utica. Just didn't play really well in that game against Clarkston. Now, you know, got to give Clarkston a lot of credit. They're a very good volleyball team. They are. But just surprised in that regional semifinal how Clarkston just completely dominated Macomb, Dakota like that. I thought it would go 5 games. Guess I was wrong. But they got the regional final, and they played a team named Fenton. Now, when I looked at this matchup with Fenton, of course, Fenton had an incredible 5-game thriller against Utica Eisenhower. There's no doubt about that. I mean, I was still shocked that Fenton upset Stony Creek at Stony Creek the way they did. No, Stony Creek upset was upset by Utica Eisenhower in that game at home in the district final. Now, when you look at Utica Eisenhower's matchup with Fenton, I was really I kind of had a feeling I knew Fenton was going to get revenge against Utica Eisenhower, because I watched a little bit of that matchup last year at Romeo when the Tigers just lost a 5-game heartbreaker to the Eagles. So I guess this was, I wouldn't call it poetic justice what they did to Utica Eisenhower, but kind of made a good thing if you were a Macomb, Dakota, if you're a Fenton fan, to get revenge for what happened in that game with get revenge. I mean, like, and that it's always with Utica Eisenhower. So it was a good win for Fenton there. And then they met Clarkson. It was another 5-game thriller. Clarkson's inability to close out games came back to haunt him in this one. Now, they did close out the Orion game, closed out the Macomb, Dakota game, but I was shocked how they couldn't close out the Fenton game. And, you know, that comes down to, and it's kind of surprising because Clarkson's got a history of, I mean, like, they know how to close out games. I mean, this year's Clarkson team early on had trouble closing out games. And I know Kelly Averall-Pinner worked on that with their team to learn how to close out games. And they ended up closing out some games where they were critical on that. But in the Orion game, in the regular season, they didn't close that one out. And you look at, and the other ones, they did close them out, even in tournaments. This is a program, this is a team that, you know, they've had some difficulties closing out games, and they didn't close out this one in the regional final against Fenton. You know, this was, I think, Fenton playing hard, Clarkson playing hard, both teams played hard, but I think when you look at the end of the day, this loss was more, I think this was on Clarkson's inability to close out games. You know, they're not consistent at closing out games, and it showed in this one. It showed in that matchup at Anchor Bay. You know, that Clarkson's inability to close out games came back to bite him. It didn't bite him in the district final against Orion, you know, but it came back to bite him in the regional final against Fenton. And, you know, this was a team, a lot of experts thought that could match up with Novi straight up, you know. They handed Novi their only loss in the regular season. And to see this, you know what I mean, for them not to be around right now, it's kind of puzzling. You know, kind of puzzling to see a Clarkson, Orion, a Stony Creek, you know, not in the tournament right now. And, you know, and those teams have been ranked high in the state all year long. You know, and these look at them, there are a lot of surprising teams in there still. You look at Midland, you look at Fenton, both those teams are surprises right now. They're still in the tournament. And then, of course, you look at Rockford. They're still in the tournament. You know, is there any team right now that can edge Novi right now? And that answer is pretty simple. I don't think there is. I mean, I think with Clarkson losing to Fenton the way they did, I think Novi just won the state championship. That's how I feel. You know, because I thought personally Clarkson would have been the team that could definitely give Novi a lot of problems. Now, yeah, Clarkson's still a very young team. I mean, you got Abby Malinowski coming back, Kayla Lukenbach coming back, but they do lose some key players. They lose Sarah Austin. They do lose Maddie Janice. They lose her. I mean, but when you look at this team, Clarkson would have given Novi a lot of problems. And it's unfortunate that Clarkson lost this one. It's unfortunate. But, you know, Fenton ended up playing very well in that one. and they proved to win that game at New Baltimore Anchor Bay against Clarkson. Got to give the Tigers credit. Got to. Going all the way out to Genesee County and going to Macomb County and winning at regional. For the reward, they play Midland. They play Midland at Midland down. So, it is what is. So, we'll see what happens going forward there, of course. Volleyball, there are no more OA teams left in girls volleyball for this fall. So, we'll see what happens going forward. When we come back, we're going to talk about, we will talk about the previewing matchup between Groves and Detroit Martin Luther King here on OAA Now.
We own a Habitat home.
I love working on my Habitat home.
Soy dueño de una casa de Habitat.
My neighbor is a Habitat homeowner.
Being a Habitat homeowner has changed our lives.
My mortgage payment for Habitat is less than what I paid for rent.
Habitat for Humanity of Oakland County currently has homes available with mortgage payments lower than most rent payments. If you or someone you know needs decent and affordable housing, call 248-338-1843 or visit our website at habitatoakland.org.
Welcome back to OAA Now. I'm Sammy Tamina here. We're going to preview the Division 2 state semifinal game, which will be held at Dearborn between Detroit Martin Luther King and Groves. Of course, this is going to be a very interesting matchup, of course, when you look at these two teams on paper. And, Groves, they've been riding high right now. The way they've been playing, they're playing very well right now. They're taking on a team in Detroit Martin Luther King, led, of course, by Amory Thomas. And they have been no stranger to playing OA teams. I mean, when you look at this matchup on paper, the question is going to be, can Groves' offense find any production against a very good Detroit Martin Luther King defense? That's the million-dollar question. That is the million-dollar question we're going to find out. And at the end of the day, that's going to be the one that decides it. I'm kind of a little surprised that Dearborn was the site that they chose for this one. It's in Wayne County. It's going to feel like an actual road game for Groves. Now, this year, I think the even teams wear dark jerseys, so Groves is going to be wearing white on Saturday afternoon, whereas Detroit Martin Luther King is probably going to be wearing yellow. So, but this is the first ever meeting between the Falcons and the Crusaders, But Detroit Martin Luther King, they played South Darson Tech in the regular season, beat them 39-0. And then they played Ferndale in the first round of the playoffs, had no problem with the Eagles there. And then they played Oak Park in the district final, where in that one, they ended up dominating Oak Park the way they did. I couldn't believe how they dominated the Knights there in that one. But when you look at what happened in that game, those three games, Detroit Martin Luther King relies a lot on their they're very athletic. There's no doubt about it. They got a good quarterback. They're fast. They're physical. They like to play. They like to control tempo. But when you look at in this matchup here, when you look in this matchup, Groves' defense has been very, very good lately. Ever since that game where they ended up losing to Saline, they have not allowed teams to get under 10 points, and they remember they limited Berkeley to 6 points. They limited Grosse Pointe South to 10. They ended up shutting out Birmingham Brother Rice. So this is a battle-tested team that Detroit Martin Luther King's going to go up against. I wouldn't say the same thing with Oak Park, because Oak Park was the same type of team when they took on Detroit Martin Luther King on that Saturday afternoon in Detroit. But you look at what happened in this game. I mean, that game, I don't know how Brendan Flaherty is going to get his team ready for this game. I really do not know how he's going to get his team ready. Because Detroit Martin Luther King is a whole different animal. I mean, Fleur. I expect Fleur to ask some of the coaches that went up against Detroit Martin Luther King and even Detroit Cass Tech. You know what I mean? I mean, Detroit Martin Luther King and Detroit Cass Tech are literally in the same class. When those two teams play each other. When you look at top-notch talent, you look at top-notch players coming out of Detroit and playing at Division I schools. Groves really doesn't have that. They really don't have that top-notch player. Now, they had it last year with Cedric Boswell. He ended up going to Iowa. But when you look at a guy like Ernest Allen, here's a guy, of course, I think Groves is getting no respect here. I really don't think that the Falcons are a team that's going to get any respect, especially with them having to go down to Wayne County to take on a very good Crusader football team. Do I think Groves' defense will have some? The key in this game is going to be can Groves handle the onslaught that Detroit Martin Luther King is going to give him. And I think that's going to be key. Because when you look at the games that are key, I think that scenario, remember, Oak Park did not handle the scenario very well when Detroit Martin Luther King blitzed them early. Ferndale didn't handle it well. Southfield Arts and Tech didn't even handle it well. And I think that's going to be the key for Groves is can this team handle the onslaught of Detroit Martin Luther King? And it can't be just for one quarter. It's got to be for 4 quarters. If Groves can handle that pressure, get some points on the board, play well defensively, then I think Groves, for the first time ever, could go to Ford Field. But let's not forget, there's a reason why Detroit Martin Luther King is defending Division II state champions. They got a lot of motivation. And yeah, their coach, Dale Haverhill, passed away. And before the season started. And those players over there at Detroit Martin Luther King are playing with a ton of emotion. They've got a goal. There's no doubt about it. But for Groves, this is, I think, arguably their best team they've ever had. And I think this will be, I think, the test for Groves. Especially having to take on this type of team. Now, when you look at it here, when you look at past OAA state champions, of course, Lake Orion, of course, back in 2010, had to go through Detroit Cass Tech to win their title. Clarkston, even on their first championship, I didn't think they were really that tested. But their second one, they had to go through Lapeer, and Lapeer gave them a lot of props. And then you look at, and also Saline, you know what I mean? When Saline and Clarkson, that was a heck of a matchup between Saline and Clarkson. Saline gave them a lot of problems in that game. Harrison, in their run, they really were, Birmingham Brother Rice gave them a lot of problems. Harrison ended up passing their test and got them their Division II state championship. Adams, they had some obstacles. Even Oxford, they've had to go through some obstacles on their way to state championships. So, a lot of these teams have to go through obstacles, just to get to Ford Field, just to get there, and it's a accomplishment. And I know Groves is thinking, we got to get by Detroit Martin Luther King. We've got to get by them. For Detroit Martin Luther King, I'm not sure how they're taking Groves right now. I'm not sure how they're taking it. They're probably viewing them right now as they're viewing Oak Park. But then again, Groves was undefeated. Heading into the Saline game, they ended up winning. They ended up beating Oak Park. They beat Southfield Arts and Tech. Whereas Detroit Martin Luther King, they got 2 losses. Both were Detroit Cass Tech. But we don't know the mindset of the Crusaders right now. We really don't know that. If the Falcons can catch the Crusaders offhand, I think Groves has a chance to not only, get to not only play with Detroit Martin Luther King, but also get to Ford Field. It would be incredible if the OAA can get another team to Ford Field. Lake Orion, Clarkston, Harrison have been to Ford Field. And, Adams and Ox were both at the Silverdome a couple years ago. So, you look at the OAA, and, this is a perfect opportunity. If Groves can somehow overcome their adversity here, at least take it a play at a time, take it a quarter at a time, then I think this is a team that can beat Detroit Martin Luther King. They're going to have to play their best football to do that. And, when they were tested against Saline, they failed that test miserably. They failed it miserably. And look what happened. When you look at projections in this matchup, a lot of people, it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of people are going to go with Detroit Martin Luther King. And there's a reason why. Too athletic, too dominant. Their speed, speed, and grit and talent. Groves has a lot of talent. The question is going to be can Groves' passing game get through against Detroit Martin Luther King? And does Groves have an answer defensively for Amory Thomas? Do they have an answer for him? I think they have an answer for him. They're going to have to prepare for it. Brandon Flaherty is a heck of a coach. But, when you look at this matchup here, I don't know if Groves matches them up very well. I really don't know if they do match them up well with Detroit Martin Luther King. I know athletically Groves does not match up well with them. I just know it. But Groves does have something on him. Running game. If Ernest Allen can go off in that game against Detroit Martin Luther King, Groves will be in this game. If not, Detroit Martin Luther King is going to blow out Groves right out of the building. And, and they will be back in the state final. I know the Crusaders are on a mission right now. And I understand that they're on a mission. But for Groves, this is an opportunity of a lifetime. This is an opportunity for a lifetime for Groves. And for them to get by their ultimate test, they're going to have to play well. They're going to have to really play well. And I think they have a shot at this one. Now, unlike Oak Park, Ferndale, Southfield Arts, and Tech, I think Groves, they know what to expect against Detroit Martin Luther King. But I also know what Detroit Martin Luther King expects from Groves. So this matchup here is going to be a very difficult game, I think, for the Falcons. I know four of the 6 this week are picking the Crusaders to knock off the Falcons. I'm going to take Groves in this one. Because when I look at this matchup, I think Ernest Allen's going to have a big game. If Bill Curry has a big game here, and he controls tempo and makes sure Detroit Martin Luther King doesn't blitzkrieg him early, then I think Groves is going to believe in this game. Groves has to believe in this game for them to have a chance. If they don't, they're going to get blown out of the window because they're going to believe all the hype of Detroit. They're going to believe in all the hype. But, just like everything else, sometimes, most of the time, hard work and grit beats talent, Can't be afraid in this game. I don't think Groves is afraid in this game. And I think when you look at this matchup here, I think Groves won't be intimidated by the athleticism, all the Division I talent that Troy Martin Luther King is given. But at the end of the day, I think Groves' defense finds a way to win this game. I think they will win this game, and I think it's going to be a 24-21 game. And I think it's going to be that. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with Groves. I mean, Groves is a big underdog in this game. And they should be. Because of the talent of the Crusaders and the emotional aspect of Dale Harville is playing for the Crusaders. But we'll see what happens. We shall see what happens. If it becomes a line game, advantage Groves. Speed game, skill game, advantage Detroit Martin Luther King. That's pretty much all I have to say about it in that matchup. Final thoughts, we'll see what happens going forward. Of course, we wish Groves the best of luck in the Division II state semifinal matchup against Detroit Martin Luther King. We'll recap what happens next week. And also, boys basketball tryouts well underway. Of course, girls basketball having their team set up. Expect to have their scrimmages sometime between this weekend and next weekend, going over there. So we'll see what happens. Keep an eye on the blog. Of course, we'll be at Inside the OAA for OAA Sports, and also on the Dragon's Den for Lake Orion Athletics. So we'll see what happens going forward there. So, okay, now I'm going to sign off here. Good luck to everybody this week at boys basketball tryouts. So we'll see what happens going forward. All right, now I'm signing off here. I'm Sammy Termina. Good night, everybody. Take care. God bless all.
OAA Now is produced at Orion Neighborhood Television, Lake Orion's community media outlet. To learn more about ONTV, visit our website at www.orionontv.org or call us at 248-393-1060.